Hello. Hope everybody's had a good day, or if you're part of a world that you're just starting your day, hope you have a good day. It's evening here. Finally got the house a little bit quiet so I could sit down and do a little bit of this video. Sorry that it's taken a while to get my second one done, but I'm trying to work on a new program by putting videos and clips in, and I did them on my old computer, but this is a totally different type of program, and it's taken me a while to figure it out. Actually, I've done this video twice now and checked both of them, so this is not going to be perfect, but I've decided this one's not going to be checked again. I'm just tired of doing it. So as I go on, hopefully I'll get better at this, but right now you're stuck with what I've done. So at the end of my last videos, I had mentioned a list of what I was planning on sharing with you in the coming little while. And I went back to my list and I thought, I think before we can explain a lot of things, there's a lot of people that have asked if I would speak on the Illuminati, and I have done a lot of research into that, and New World Order and WEF and so on. And I thought maybe before I get to the other subjects, it's really good if we understand who Zionists are, because they are really the ones that are at the bottom of all this. We go back to C.T. Russell naming the first Watchtower Zion's Watchtower. So we know that Jehovah's Witnesses are, or Watchtower is our Zionists. And I don't think Russell, as a matter of fact, from what my background search on him, he is one of the 13 elite families in the world. And he did say that he was a Mason, and we know that they are part of the Illuminati. And and obviously he was from Scotland or somewhere over there, so he was not an Israelite Hebrew Jew. So what is a Zionist? And this is what I want to try to explain to you in as easy a way as I can before I get to my next videos. The first thing you have to know is that Zionists have absolutely no Hebrew blood in them. They're actually fake Jews. And I know everybody's going to say, "Oh, you're anti-Semitic." I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm going to quickly read you a little bit of the history of the Khazars, and then from there, what I'll do is leave a link in the comments beneath this video on a video you can watch that goes into more history on the Khazars and how they actually became the elite of the world. So bear with me. I'm just going to find this this little clip I have to read to you, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so we're going back now to about 100 AD, and this is 100 to 800 AD. It says an incredibly evil society emerges in Khazaria. Khazarians were ruled by an evil king who had ancient Babylonian black arts, occult obligards, serving in their court. During this time, Khazarians became known to surrounding countries as thieves, murderers, road bandits, and for assuming the identities of those travelers they murdered as a normal occupational practice and way of life. Then 800 AD, the ultimatum is delivered by Russia and the surrounding nations. I'll just give you a little background there that they were actually at this point in time, they were in Khazaria, which is modern day Ukraine. So they were in Russian territory. Before that, the Russian king, they had been kicked out of almost every other place they had been, and the Russia gave them sanctuary and gave them that portion of land to live in. So it says the leaders of the surrounding nations, especially Russia, have had so many years of complaints by their citizens that as a group they deliver the ultimatum to the Khazarian king. They send a communique to the Khazarian king that he must choose one of three Abrahamic religions for his people and make it his official state religion and require all Khazarian citizens to practice it and socialize all Khazarian children to practice that faith. So that is just the start. That is basically just to give you an idea of who they were. They were thieves and murderers. And up until that time, they were not known as Jews at all. They actually, their background comes from the ancient Canaanites, Babylonian, Egyptian religions, and all their pagan practices. They worshiped Baal and Moloch, loved sacrificing children, anything to make their gods happy. And the happier their gods were, they figured they would get magic from their gods, and they would prosper, and the gods would bless them from the blood sacrifices that they did. I'm just going to put in a little chart here for you before I get to the next. I'm just going to put a little chart that you can stop the video for a minute and look at it, and it'll kind of give you an idea of where the Khazars came from and how they've come into modern day religion, and they've come into to society. So I'll put that in right away, and then I'll get back here. So as you can see, they go back a long, long ways, more than any of us ever thought. And they've managed, they're survivors, they've managed to survive all these years. Some people say they have different DNA than we do. And I'm not talking about, I mean, that most of the Israelite people that live in Israel are wonderful people. I'm talking, the women, children, the normal people. These evil people want them dead just as much as they want the rest of us dead. They are exactly the same way as Watchtower was. In their Georgia Guidestones, they say that they want the earth down to 500 million people. And I think that is the ultimate goal. Whereas right now, other people are trying to lessen the blow a little bit. And just to show that, I will put on a little video I have here for you. And it's from a Zionist from the World Economic Forum, one of the elites. And while you watch it, just think of what it reminds you of. When I look at it, it reminds me that this could be one of those old guys that sit on the governing body on jw.org and tell us about how everybody in the whole earth is going to be killed except for Jehovah's Witnesses. And they smile while they're saying it, and they make it sound like genocide is no big deal. I mean, it's no big deal to anybody. And just watch this little clip and see if it reminds you of what it reminds me of.
So far, globally, you are so far above the population and the consumption levels which can be supported by this planet that I know in one way or another it's going to come back down. So I don't hope to avoid that. I hope that it can occur in a civil way, and I mean civil in a special way, peaceful. Peace doesn't mean that everybody's happy, but it means that conflict isn't solved through violence, through force, but rather in other ways. And so that's what I hope for. That we can, I mean, the planet can support something like 1 billion people, maybe 2 billion, depending on how much liberty and how much material consumption you want to have. If you want more liberty and more consumption, you have to have fewer people. And conversely, you can have more people. I mean, we could even have 8 or 9 billion probably if we have a very strong dictatorship, which is smart. It's, unfortunately, you never have smart dictatorships. They're always stupid. So, but if you had a smart dictatorship and a low standard of living, you can have it. But we want to have freedom and we want to have a high sentence. So we're going to have 1 billion people. And we're now at 7. So we have to get back down. I hope that this can be slow, relatively slow, and that it can be done in a way which is relatively equal, so that people share the experience and you don't have a few rich, trying to force everybody else to deal with it. So those are my hopes. I mean, these are pretty pessimistic hopes, but I mean, that's.
So there we saw a little meme, if you will say, if that's what you call it, of actually people that have been looking into Watchtower and what they've come up with, that they are part of the New World Order. They have the same agenda. They are very good friends with a lot of the higher ups and the elites. That's what's made them such a rich organization. Um, and it actually mentions there the Enochian magic that we saw Tony Morris do when he blew out that match, remember? And then the other things is things you've seen just to prove that Russell, he mentioned himself that he was a Mason. Of course, Zion's Watchtower. I threw that one in with the blue. That color blue is the color that Masons use. You'll find if you look into the Illuminati and you look into the Freemasons, that is a particular blue color that they will use in a lot of their ceremonies and in their lodges. And it's just, and Watchtower has chosen that color as their logo. And if you look even in jw.org on their soundstage there, you'll see the pillars on both sides, and they always have the pillars. And what the pillars represent is you're going through a portal. So right there, it's pagan. They also have the compass with the Eye of Horus above it, which is the same as the last one with the Eye of Horus for the Denmark Assembly Hall. I don't know if Watchtower still owns that. I heard they were selling it, but no matter what, they're the ones that built it. And we see a lot in the world now, people referring to the Eye of Horus. When you see sportscasters or you see movie stars in Hollywood, you see lots of people do this, cover an eye. That's referring to the Eye of Horus, or and they also have the podium there. So all those things are things that most of those things there are something that you would have found in Russell's and Rutherford's day, because most of their meetings were at Mason lodges. As a matter, I think I said in my last video that I believe I believe actually two Kingdom Halls that I went to in my life were in Mason lodges when I was young. So then I want to make it clear that I have no animosity towards average Jehovah's Witnesses. My family hasn't talked to me in years, and I still love them. I know they're brainwashed. I know they follow man. I know that they have to have pretty weak minds to not go and do their own research. And they won't do their own research. They wouldn't even look at a video like this. And as far as I'm concerned, the truth stands up for itself. They say that they have the truth. Well, if they had the truth, they would be doing the research. And it's exactly the way it is. Well, I can tell you, censorship, what's happened in the world now, even with Facebook. I'm not even sure once I try putting this up on YouTube whether they're going to censor it or not. But I can tell you that I was in Facebook jail for so many times um, during the pandemic because I was trying to warn people. All I was doing was trying to put up videos of actual doctors and what their opinion was on COVID or the vaccine. Anytime you tried to say anything, we would get censored. So their playbook is almost exactly the same as the New World Order. I believe, though, the way they're teaching the poor rank and file, that they think that this New World Order is going to take place, and my personal belief is that they're training their people right now already to be the slaves of the elites, because that's exactly what the elites have said, and in many instances, that once they've got the earth down to the amount of people that they want, that there will be people there that will be their slaves, that will do all the work. Although they're so into transhumanism that they won't need that many people because they're going to have the computers doing most of the work. But even Jehovah's Witnesses in the past, um, I don't have it on me right now. I'm just thinking of it as I'm talking. But they've even in the past there was a question from the readers in the 60s, I believe, that said that in the future, it said 100 years after Armageddon is what it said. It said that there would be no more need for children because the earth would already be full. And because there would be no more need for children, then there would be no need for women. So everybody on earth would be men. And how do we sure see that happening right now, don't we? We see all these men turning into women, women turning into men. I mean, nobody seems to know who they are anymore. I don't know whether it's what they're putting in our food or just straight brainwashing, but that is why I do not blame anything on the actual rank and file Jehovah's Witnesses. That they have been so brainwashed from the top down and for so many years, and it's just hard for them to leave, especially if there's somebody, a PMO, physically and mentally out, and they've got family. You're going to lose everything. They'll lose everything. So it's hard for them.
Israel has to wage this big war, which is already planned long ago. And the territory of the state of Israel will dramatically expand. And the Palestinian problem will be solved because they'll be exported out. That is the massive human rights crime. But Israel has a PhD in deception. Because it's Dajjal at the back of this, the mastermind. Israel has to wage her big war and make it appear as though she was only defending herself. How is Israel going to launch this big war and yet get away from being perceived by the whole of humanity as the aggressor, blatant aggression? You have to come with a good strategy.
So from those brief little clips, you can just see that old man speaking. He knew what he was talking about 20 years ago, because he already knew about the Balfour Agreement. Now, I can't get into that. It will make this video go way too long, but it's something you can look up. It happened in 1917. It was between the Rothschilds and Great Britain. And then in 1947, the Jews moved into the land of Palestine. Up until that time, the real Israelites, or the Hebrew Israelites, I believe, and the Palestinians, they all lived together, and it was peaceful. There was no problems. You didn't hear of the murders. You didn't hear about the genocides. You didn't hear about any of that. But when these fake Jews went in 1947 and wanted the land and then started calling it Israel, it changed from Palestine to Israel. And you can see from that little map exactly how they've just gradually taken over all of the Palestinian land. And I'm not saying the Palestinian government is any better than the Jewish governments. They're all terrorists, and they're, as well as our CIA. ISIS was formed by the Israeli government and the CIA together, and it's Israeli. I've got it somewhere. I'll put that underneath as well, what it actually stands for. And the world is run basically, what we say, by 1% of the population, and that 1% is terrorists that want us all dead. And the way they're going to get that is to have war and have us fighting, have us hating the Palestinians, have us hating the Jews, have us hating black people, have us hating white people, having us hate people because of their religion. As long as they can create the problem and make themselves and then make themselves come in and look like the good guys, that they've got a solution for the problem, then the problem, they look good, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. And usually it's war. And we can see that happening right now over what's happening in the land in Israel, what it's called now, and how the Palestinian people you don't see the terrorists. They're sitting, Hezbollah, the head of Hezbollah, his son is sitting in Miami partying it up. Well, and he's somewhere else too. Well, all the people in Palestine are being bombed and starved to death. So these are people that, the 1%, are what we all need to stand up and fight them and fight for ourselves. And as far as I can see, I've been fighting this battle for a while. I can see that we're winning. I'm not saying, anything I'm saying is what their plan was, the New World Order, the globalists were, Council of 300, Zionists, whatever you want to call them, the elites. It was all what they had planned for us. But I think enough of us have stood up, and you can see that by what's going on in Europe. They're in France, I know today the government gave in and are not taking the farmers' land away from them anymore. And so I think that's what we needed. Somebody needed to open our eyes up to the truth of what's happening in this world. And I'm sure glad they did. Whoever started this movement and got it going, I'm so happy, because apparently 2 billion people in the world now are fighting it. And there isn't 2 billion elites. They can't fight us. So I'm going to leave this video now with one video. I'm going to leave it I'm going to say goodnight myself. I'm going to leave a couple of clips that you can go and you can look at of what their plan was. A couple from Henry Kissinger, who actually started, he's a very evil man. He started the World Economic Forum. So I'm going to leave a couple of clips from him. And another one on the New World Order, and then in the end, a very short video on what their plan has been. And you can just take your time and look at it, and leave me a comment and let me know what you think. And I will apologize for my gaps and so on. Like I said at the beginning in this video, it's taken me so long to do this because I'm trying to figure out how to use it. So I apologize for some of the screw ups, but I'm not going to go over and do it again. So next time, I hope to hear from you, and I hope you enjoyed this and enjoy the last couple of clips. And thank you for watching.
The final goal is to eradicate humanity as we know it. Once you understand the final destination, it becomes much easier to look back and identify the psychological conditioning, the biological tampering, the cultural grooming, and the educational prepping that we have been subjected to for decades in preparation to making us accept a post-human future. It takes a lot of physical and psychological abuse to get an intelligent species like ours to agree to its own extinction. Most, if not all, that has transcended in the last 60 years was designed to get us closer to accepting such a dystopian reality. Whether you care to accept it or not, we live in a hyper-controlled matrix where our perception of reality is meticulously planned, managed, and executed in order to control and steer us in whichever direction they wish. And the direction is a post-human world. For this, they first needed to destabilize, dehumanize, and demoralize humanity through every means possible. The destruction of the nuclear family, children being indoctrinated by the state, abortion, the eradication of God and spirituality from education, life in megacities and away from nature, toxic food, air and water, social media, replacing real human connection and interaction, engineered financial crisis and taxation, Endless wars and massive migration, stress, anxiety, depression, drugs and alcohol, constant fear-mongering, moral relativism as the new religion, and I could go on and on about how humanity has been influenced and forced to move away from all the things that give us strength, security, purpose, and meaning. A weak, immoral, disconnected, ignorant, and unhealthy population is an easy target for the next stage, the creation of an entire generation of androgynous beings. Masculinity is under attack psychologically, culturally, and biologically. Women are being replaced in sports, entertainment, and politics by men pretending to be women, and children are being indoctrinated at school to think that gender is a choice. The transgender movement is not a grassroots movement. It comes from the top. It has nothing to do with people's freedom of expression, sexuality, or civil rights. It's an evil psyop with a clear agenda to get us closer to transhumanism by making us question the most fundamental notion of human identity, our gender. If you don't know who you are, if you already identify as a hybrid between a man and a woman, you will be easily convinced to become a hybrid between human and machine. Gender ideology is the 2 + 2 = 5 from George Orwell's 1984 dystopian novel. It's the final test to see whether we will follow the most absurd party line towards our own extinction. But 2 + 2 = 4. And no matter how you choose to dress, call yourself, or change your physique, will not change that. The sad reality, though, is that in the gaslighting process to get us closer to a post-human future, they have mentally and physically harmed an increasing number of children and young people, and it's only getting worse. This must be stopped.
Hi, just one quick correction that I want to make to my video. I had said about Hezbollah being the terrorist, that his son was sitting in Miami partying it up. Hezbollah is a terrorist group as well. But what I meant to say is Hamas. Hamas is the ones that are the terrorists, and they run Palestine and don't seem to care one pile of beans about their people, as we can see on the news. Anyways, that's what I wanted to correct.